We have with us on today's spotlight former member of the Public Service Commission, Martin George. Not yet, well, still a lawyer, and I'm sure he's going to be lending us his legal expertise as well as we delve into the saga of the Public Service Commission, Gary Griffith, and whether or not he is still the acting commissioner of police, or, as Rocker said, is he now a civilian? Does he have to be inside by 9? Well, let's welcome Martin George. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Natalie, and good morning to your viewers. Just one slight correction, Natalie. Police Service Commission, not Public
Yes.
Service Commission.
Sorry, my bad. And I know it's police. I don't know how public came out of my mind. Thank you. So the Police Service Commission. Former member of the police, I keep saying public, I'm hearing myself now. Former member of the Police Service Commission, Mr. George, we're here to delve into, let's go right back to day one. Does the law and does the laws as they stand allow the Police Service Commission to choose somebody to be a commissioner of police if that person is not a police officer?
Yes, the law allows that. And I mean, we had it with Dwayne Gibbs when he was brought in from Canada. He was never a member of the TTPS, and he was co-opted and he was given a contract. And he was given an appointment by the Police Service Commission as the commissioner. So it is possible for that to be the case. However, the question that I think really arises now is what is the current status of Mr. Griffith, given the back and forth we've seen between himself and Minister Lang.
Let's get into that, because Rokas and I were speaking before, and I was saying, when you have a commissioner of police and the commissioner of police goes on leave and somebody is acting, he does not lose his substantive post as commissioner of police, does he?
Well, the point is whether you had a substantive post before is the question, if you understand me.
So all right. So is it that the letter that was given to Gary Griffith from the Police Service Commission does not authorize him as the acting commissioner of police because it didn't go through the process of being approved by Parliament, debated and approved in Parliament?
Okay, well, first of all, I have not seen the letter of authorization that he has, so I can't comment on the letter. What I can tell you is that if it is that the PSC considered that his appointment as commissioner came to an end with the end of his 3-year contract, and as far as they looked at it, if they considered that he was no longer commissioner because the appointment as commissioner had come to an end, then when they gave him the acting appointment and then he subsequently went and leave, if they then put another person in to act as commissioner, it would seem that unless and until they returned Mr. Griffith to that acting post, then that other person actually is the one who is holding the reins of power, because you really cannot have 2 acting commissioners of police at the same time, and you can't have 2 commissioners of police at the same time.
Right. So is it that the leave then that Mr. Griffith took takes away the power that was given to him by the Police Service Commission to act as a commissioner of police?
All right, the thing is, so once you go on leave and you are no longer in the office, you are no longer acting as police commissioner. That's clear. There's no doubt about that. So if you've given an acting appointment and you go on leave and you are out of the country, while you are out of the country, you are not the acting commissioner anymore. That's very clear. So whoever then they appoint to act in that role, that person will be the acting commissioner. So I think that's where the imbroglio has occurred.
Right, because I think what's happening is that I myself, even now, I'm still uncertain as to the legalese behind what's happening. And I think that's why we see Gary Griffith deciding to go to the courts, because the Police Service Commission has not indicated, one, on what grounds it asked Mr. Griffith to go on extended leave. Because at one point we thought, okay, leave until the 17th or 20th of September, no problem. And then we're hearing, okay, I've been sent on extended leave, but on what grounds?
Okay, well, I mean, I have not seen the letter which was sent to Mr. Griffith in terms of what they use as their basis. I've seen what he has said publicly. He has alluded to the investigation being done by former Justice of Appeal Stanley John. So the point is, I don't want to comment on what they actually may have said because, as I said, I haven't seen the letter.
Right.
Mr. Griffith has made his point publicly that based upon the terms of reference of Justice Stanley John and the response that he got from Justice Stanley John, at least what I have seen in the public. I mean, I haven't seen Justice of Appeal Stanley John confirm that that was his letter, but the point is, if we are to take it at face value, it's on that basis I see that Mr. Griffith has mounted his arguments to say that, look, if it is that he's not the subject of the investigation, then in those circumstances, he's not clear as to why they are still asking him to remain on extended leave. Of course, the matter is before the court.
Let me ask you, from a legal perspective, and as somebody who was on the Police Service Commission, apart from if there is an investigation ongoing that may not necessarily include Gary Griffith, but include the work of Gary Griffith and something that's very integral to him, are those grounds to send him on leave? Because we know that the Police Service Commission also investigates and can discipline police officers. But on those grounds, considering, let's take, as you said, at face value, that the Police Service Commission gave Gary Griffith the letter to say, okay, you're acting in as Commissioner of Police until X time. That time came, he decides to come back, they decide to send him on leave. Mr. John comes in, does an investigation, say, okay, we're not investigating you, but something that involves you. Are those grounds, or is that grounds enough to say, okay, you can't be here because there is an investigation ongoing?
Okay, all right. So, Natalie, we get guidance. Actually, we can look to Jamaica for guidance in this regard. And we look to the Privy Council case of Jamaicans for Justice versus the Police Service Commission in Jamaica. And because this is a Privy Council decision, the principles which the law lords espouse are applicable to Trinidad and Tobago. In that case, there was Superintendent Hewitt, who was vying for a top position within the police service in the Jamaican Constabulary Force. And he had an uncanny connection with a series of extrajudicial killings which occurred at the hands of police officers. And that group, Jamaicans for Justice, they indicated that look, this is something that ought to be investigated by the Police Service Commission before they make an appointment. The Police Service Commission in Jamaica, it said that, look, okay, they will do an investigation. They did a very cursory investigation, and they said, look, we can't do any more because we don't have the resources or the manpower, The group said, no, that's not enough. You need to do a thorough investigation. And they took the matter to court. It went to the High Court in Jamaica, it went to the Appeal Court, and it reached all the way to the Privy Council. And the Privy Council ruled and determined that the Police Service Commission in Jamaica has a duty to investigate any and all credible allegations and accusations. So even though some of the actions occurred by the unit that Superintendent Hewitt was controlling, they said, no, it must still be investigated. So using those principles, as I say, it's a Privy Council decision, so it will apply mutatis mutandis, right? The Police Service Commission in Trinidad and Tobago has a duty to investigate any credible allegation that they have. So if, as part and parcel of that, they take a decision to say, well, look, I need to remain on leave while I conduct this investigation, unless it can be shown that that decision is what we call in law Wednesbury unreasonable, it may be that when they put in their evidence, they may be able to show a justification for that decision.
So is Gary Griffith a civilian while all of this is going on, while he's on leave? Because as you said, we can't have two acting commissioners of police. Who is he now while all of this is going on? What's his title? What's his position?
actually is an imbroglio which I think has been so unfortunate because this is something that ought to have been anticipated. Now, I know sometimes what is done is that they induct them as an SRP, right, just for the purpose of allowing you to be appointed to the role of commissioner. So that I think would be something that the Ministry of National Security would be best able to determine. I have seen in the public space where Minister Hines has indicated his position, and of course, Mr. Griffith has fired back, in his usual style, Mr. Hines, in terms of that issue. But at the end of the day, we must remember that the Ministry of National Security remains the employer. So while the Police Service Commission does the appointment to the office of commissioner, the Police Service Commission is not the employer. The Ministry of National Security is the employer. So if speaking on behalf of the employer, Minister Hines makes certain pronouncements, then of course one would have to consider that he ought to know in terms of what is the proper procedure and situation.
Yeah, but it seems to me, before we even get to the Ministry and Minister of National Security, it seems to me that the Police Service Commission doesn't know what it is doing, because now there are so many questions about the processes that are supposed to take place. And the reality is that people are assuming a lot of things in light of the fact that the Police Service Commission is not coming out and saying what is going on. And now the latest thing we have is one of the commissioners, Mr. McNeish, deciding to resign, citing that he has no confidence in the chairman, in the chairperson, Blesa C. Prasad, at this point. So it means that internally something is going on.
Okay, Natalie, well, maybe you have more information than I do. I was not aware of what you just said. I didn't know that he gave a reason and cited that lack of confidence. Is that a confirmed position?
That's what was carried on the news last night, that he said that he has resigned because he has lost confidence in the chairman of the Police Service Commission.
Well, I mean, I'm now hearing that from you for the first time. And I mean, well, of course, if that's the case, then I could understand one's position being untenable. But I have been calling since last week on the Police Service Commission as a body to come out and clear the air with the public, because that was important, because there were too many questions swirling around, too many unanswered issues, and there was too much speculation running rampant and right. And the point is, if it is that you have the accurate information, then you have a duty to come out and let the public know, because otherwise the other persons who are out there putting their side of the story, they will take precedence, and that may be all that the public has to work with, and therefore you are left stymied, and you end up impaled on the horns of a dilemma if it is that you are basically paralyzed by inaction. So I called upon them repeatedly last week. I said they must come out, they must make a statement, they must clear the air on these issues. Nothing was done, and as a result, we've seen what may be possibly the beginning of the end. I mean, one doesn't ever want to see a commission, a constitutionally appointed commission, crumble or collapse. But we have precedent for that before. If you recall the matter of Christopher Rowley, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley versus the Integrity Commission, when he challenged by judicial review the decisions of the Integrity Commission when they decided to investigate him, and they did not follow due process. And the High Court ruled against the Integrity Commission and condemned them for not following proper process in their investigation of Dr. Rowley. And the entire Integrity Commission collapsed as a result. So, as I say, one does not like to see that happen, but I think by not coming forth in a timely manner and giving the explanations to the public, they have allowed this mountain of calls to grow, where you have even the opposition leader is calling upon the entire commission to resign. And the point is, they are not clearing the air.
Because that's what I was about to ask you, the fact that the opposition is asking for the Police Service Commission to resign. Because the opposition leader is saying that there are two acting commissioners of police. Because I guess in her mind, which is what I was thinking too, is that even if you're on leave, leave doesn't mean you are no longer the person in charge. It just means that there's somebody sitting in your seat. So once that leave is up, then you're acting again. But Gary Griffith was sent on extended leave as far as we know. As you said, there are so many assumptions going on at this time. Sorry. So then the question is, even based on Jamaicans for Justice versus the Police Service Commission in Jamaica, was due process followed here based on what you know of the commission? The fact that he was sent on leave, according to Mr. Griffith, without being told the reason behind it, even if we know of an investigation going on, if he is not being investigated, is that due process?
Okay, well, the thing is, I mean, because it's a matter before the court, I mean, one would have to be very circumspect in terms of commenting on it. But what I can say in a general sense, the fact that you may not directly be the subject of an investigation, that by itself may not necessarily mean that the investigation may not touch and concern upon you or your actions. So in other words, if it is that, okay, for instance, if it is someone is investigating, false license plates being issued by the licensing division or false certificates of registration being issued by the licensing division, the person in charge of the licensing division may say, well, okay, you are not investigating me personally. However, because it may touch and concern the office, and particularly in circumstances where you have the signature of the person in charge of the licensing division on each of the documents, then it may, in a way, tangentially impact upon you. And in those circumstances, it might be good for the administration of justice for them to say, well, look, we wish for you to remain on leave while this investigation continues. But of course, there are, wait, just don't ask me, wait, let me finish this point. There are other factors that you consider. Because if it is that you're saying that the person is not the commissioner and not the acting commissioner, then what authority do you have to send them on leave? Because you yourself have, so in other words, I think the Police Service Commission has caught itself in a conundrum. Because if it is that you are not acknowledging any official status in the individual, then what authority do you have over them to be able to send them on leave? The Constitution is very clear in terms of what the role and function of the Police Service Commission is. The Police Service Commission is the body that has constitutional oversight over the top executives in the police service, that is the Deputy Commissioners of Police and the Commissioner. So if you are saying that he's clearly not a Deputy Commissioner, he's never been, right? And if you are saying that he's no longer Commissioner, and if the Police Service Commission itself is also saying, look, we have an acting commissioner in the form of McDonald Jacobs, and if they're saying that you are not the acting commissioner, then what's the jurisdiction and authority they have over him to be able to send him on leave in any event? So they have dropped the ball badly on this. They have made a complete fumble and bumble and mumble that they needed to come out and clarify. Maybe there are good and valid reasons and explanations that they can offer, but by sitting silently and burying their heads in the sand and hoping this will blow over, that is not going to happen. This is Trinidad and Tobago. That's not going to happen.
So let's talk about the Ministry of National Security, because now we're talking about sending someone on leave who we are uncertain if that person is acting commissioner of police or civilian. Because I think that's right in that little space, that's where the discrepancy is, because we don't know if Gary Griffith is acting commissioner of police, SRP, or just former member of the army. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, so former member of the army can't qualify for this. This is right. The police.
I'm just saying about him then as a person, right? So how does the Ministry of National Security get into this? Because they approve leave, and I am trying to figure out if it is the Police Service Commission who can send someone on leave, or if it's the Ministry of National Security, which would make that letter from Police Service Commission null and void. So,
all right, so let's just delve into that. Let's unpack that a bit. All right, so in the circumstances of you co-opting someone from outside the police service and bringing them in, the Ministry of National Security would give them a contract of employment. Now, in the normal course of things, Natalie, if your contract of employment is at an end, then normally you will not have a status or position until it's renewed. To the best of our knowledge, it doesn't appear that that contract has been renewed. So that's where the issue arises. And what I'm saying is that this whole imbroglio could have been avoided if it is that person's new, because it's a 3-year contract, so it's a fixed term. You know when it's coming to an end. So therefore, this is something you could have anticipated and dealt with rather than letting it come to this. So therefore, if you don't have a contract of employment, then the question arises as to what is your status. The point is the Police Service Commission can appoint you to the office, but that is dependent upon you having a contract of employment with the Ministry of National Security. So that's why I say, if the Ministry of National Security is the employer, and you hear Mr. Hines,
because that contract came to an end, is it the 17th or 18th of August?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So that contract came to an end, but yet, so we have somebody with no contract who is in a process, an application process for a position that is unfinished as far as we know. Why? Let me ask you this though: is the commission able to start the process before it has ended, considering that one of the candidates going up for the position is also applying for the position?
Well, even that, you ask yourself in terms of the way it has been managed, and even the question of the Police Service Commission seeking to appoint Mr. Griffith to act in the interregnum. Given the fact that you had 3 substantive deputy commissioners of police whom you could have chosen from, then it seemed that it would have been better management of the process if they had chosen one of those substantive deputy commissioners, as they've done in the case of McDonald Jacob, and put that person to act in the interregnum. So therefore, you allow the process of the recruitment to take place separate and apart from someone who is actually sitting in the chair while the process is going on. It doesn't seem fair. In fact, even that alone could have possibly been the basis of other candidates saying, but wait, this man could have an unfair advantage because he's in the role while he's also competing for the role, so, I mean...
And that's what I was asking, if while he's competing for the role, if that is why they waited until his contract was finished to go ahead with recruitment, so to speak, because how do you recruit somebody who is sitting in the position?
Right, no, but what I'm saying is,
there's an
even if they did, then it was compounded when they then put him back to act. That was, I think that was definitely an unforced error. There's no explanation.
When he has no contract. So is it at the Ministry of National Security, but could the Ministry of National Security have renewed his contract considering that they had not finished the recruitment process? Another thing that we're unsure of.
Well, we have no information, at least I have seen nothing from the ministry or from the minister which suggests that his contract has been renewed. So, and then, that creates another problem if it is that they did renew the contract. So I would hope that, from what we have heard, that it doesn't appear that they have renewed the contract.
Mr. George, we are way over my time. What next do you think is going to happen? I do have to go, but what next do you believe has to happen? Do you think that the commission should resign and we just start over?
Well, the thing is, when it comes to persons holding high public office and persons who have dedicated their time, their expertise to public service, I am always very respectful of their time and the contributions that they make. However, I think, unfortunately, this situation has come to a point where the remaining 3 commissioners need to look themselves in the mirror and ask some hard questions as to whether they have the moral compass or the ability to command that moral authority to continue in office as commissioners. And they have to ask themselves whether continuing to stay there is going to do more damage to the institution than good. If it's going to do more damage, then of course your decision is easy. We're supposed to follow the Westminster traditions. And in any civilized society, there would not even be a discussion of whether people should resign. They would have done so a long time ago and demitted office rather than bring down the institution with you. But in this circumstance, I'm not sure what are the motivating factors. However, I'll just draw the nation's attention to two things. Section 122 of the Constitution says there shall be a police service commission for Trinidad and Tobago, which shall consist of a chairman and 4 other members. Now, this particular section has not officially been tested in the courts, but a question can arise as to whether there actually is a police service commission if you don't have a chairman and 4 other members. All right. And it also says the qualifications that are required.
I have to go.
Yes.
I have to go. But I want to thank you so much. I think we have to do a part 2 to this to just
certainly.
To have a good day, and thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.